After that, I saw Free State of Jones. Like literally, quite literally, right after that, like I went from one theater to the other, and like I kind of planned it pretty much perfectly. It had it perfectly timed. Where right after what the hell Independence Day ended, I went and saw Free State of Jones. Now, this is a movie that was interesting for two reasons for me. One, I thought the trailers for this movie looked pretty good. I was kind of sold on it. It's a movie. I was like, all right, a new Matt McConaughey movie about kind of like a slave rebellion that kind of looks like a little bit of a revenge flick too, from what the trailer made it look like. I'm like, all right, that could be kind of cool. And it's based off a true story, which I hear is really good. You know, a really interesting true story and everything else. Also, another reason why I was kind of looking forward to this movie was that I kind of know the guy who wrote the story for this film. His name is Leonard Hartman. I know his mother and the rest of his family. I never met him personally, but I know his whole family. I've known his family since I grew up with like his a lot of his relatives. I kind of went to school with a lot of them, and my sister's known them. And then I was like, all right, you know, one of them's I like, you know, he's making his first story screenplay. And I was like, all right, that'd be kind of cool. I want to see how this does. And I said, this is a pretty big movie, you know. And like I said, from the trailers, it looked really good, you know. I was kind of like looking forward to this film, not just because he was making it or like somebody I knew was writing it, was because like it looked like a solid film. I was looking for, like I said, I was looking forward to this movie up until a few days ago when the reviews started popping up for this thing. And I don't know if anybody's been keeping track of the reviews for this thing. At one point on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie had a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I went, wow, how bad is this movie gotta be to be a 0%? And that was on it was on a 0% for like a few days there. Luckily, it's now up to a 40. But I was like, holy shit! Like this has got to be a really bad movie, like to be a 0%. And it can't be. Like I was like, how bad could this be? Because it didn't look that bad from the trailers. It's Matt McConaughey looking like he's gonna try to get another Oscar, man. Maybe this is an Oscar bait movie, but even I've seen some bad Oscar bait movies that are not that bad. Well, I don't know how to put this lightly. uh, this movie is boring as fucking sin. That's the best. That's the nicest way I can put it. God damn it! I felt like I needed a nap after. I actually, literally, after I got home, I pretty much went to bed. It's like that. It was that boring. I literally was about to fall asleep throughout like majority of this movie. One thing I will say about Independence Day, I didn't mention, that movie went through pretty quickly. Like that 2 hours, I didn't feel like I was sitting there for 2 hours. It felt like I've been sitting there for like maybe an hour and a half, less than that. This movie, I swear to God, I felt like I've been sitting there for 5 days. That's how long this movie felt. Like I felt like this movie was as long. It's like this movie felt about as long as like any of the Lord of the Rings movies, Boyhood, and this movie was not even that long, not that much longer, and not even close to being as long as those movies. God damn it, this movie. Oh. Alright, before I get into the complaints, I will say this. Matt McConaughey was great in this thing. I love Matt McConaughey. That guy is charming as hell and a really solid actor. Like, some of the best moments in this movie are in the first 20 minutes, and throughout the majority, there are some good moments too, here and there, with Matt McConaughey just pulling a really good performance. Like, there's a lot of quiet scenes in this movie that are really good, like where he's just not saying much, and it's just really solid acting on his part, like just using his facial expressions and like kind of having like a stone cold face about like him, and like he looks like a guy who's been through some shit, man. And the first 20 minutes of this movie, honestly, were pretty solid. I was kind of getting like, all right, I have no idea how the hell this is getting bad reviews. Cause this is 20 minutes in, like, I'm kind of getting into the story. Like, he's a nurse, a Confederate nurse, who is kind of sick of this war, being forced by the Confederate Army to serve in this war, to help protect these rich people, and stuff like that, and like protect their rich Southerners who just want to keep their slaves and all that stuff like that. And I was like, all right, this is kind of a solid story. And then his son kind of gets involved, gets drafted into the war, and his son gets killed instantly. And like he decides to desert the Confederate Army. I'm like, okay, this is starting out like a solid film. Where the movie started to show a lot of big red flags for me was about 20 minutes in when it decided to say 87 years later. To which I went, what? I was like, to which they decided to cut to in the 1940s, where Matt McConaughey's son, all grown up, is on trial for him being half or some 1/3 black, and because of that, he's legally married to a white woman, even though he's completely white. I mean, I know there's probably trials that did happen, but it was like, okay, like it just briefly cuts to that, like out of nowhere, 20 minutes in, it cuts to that, like without any warning. It just says 87 years later and cuts to that, and then it cuts, like it shows it very briefly, and then cuts right back. I'm like, what the? I was like, I sat there in the theater, like, what the fuck did I just see? Like, did a different movie just pop in on accident? and then like it did that again, like very briefly, like at the, like, I don't know, 20 minutes later, and then it just completely forgot about it. Like, there's a lot of parts of this movie that just completely forget about. I'll talk about that in a second, but I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, okay, what the hell? But then the movie just went on and on and on and on and on. There was a point, an hour and a half in this movie, where the fucking Civil War ends. The Civil War ends, and I'm like, okay, the movie's over, alright? But it's like, the movie's gotta be over, close to be over now. No, it goes on for another fucking hour, and there is no point to it fucking going on for another hour. This story is so fucking boring. It's like, it's uninteresting. Like, yes, it tells a lot of, like, themes that we've seen done before, that have been done before a lot better, like with slavery and racism, and this movie is like all over the place. The movie about racism, but also about freedom, and it's also about the rebellion. And it doesn't really want to decide what the hell it wants to be about. I think that's the main problem with this movie. Is like, it's like all over the place. And also, this movie, I think the best way to describe this movie, I was thinking about later, or this morning, I was sitting there like, you know what? This is the best way I can describe it. Is that this movie felt like this should have been like a 5-part documentary on TV that you see, or mini-series or mini-movie that you see on TV about the Civil War, and not a feature-length film. Because while this movie is slow and boring and like is all over the place and goes like, it also skips history a lot in this movie, to the point that, like, this is, like, I saw a reviewer say this, and I'm glad he wasn't the only one who said this, because this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I kind of agree with him, that while this movie has a lot in it and a lot of stuff going on, this movie probably could have also had a lot more shit in it too. Like, there was a lot of stuff that, like, isn't explained. Like, this was something that was bugging the hell out of me. Like, that runaway slave that that or that slave girl that lived on that plantation that McConaughey had a relationship with, that you keep seeing throughout the whole movie. She goes between the plantation and going off to see Matt McConaughey and all these runaway slaves and all these people that were deserting the Confederate Army. And I'm sitting there the whole time like, did they ever explain how the hell she was able to get away from the plantation? I know a little bit about history and the fact that they even expressed, like, at the beginning they kind of explained it, and that she was given a pass to be able to go out to Matt McConaughey's house to help heal his sick child. And, that was explained. But also at the same time, there's no explanation as to how she's able to get out of the plantation. Because it's not like that she's not, like, it cuts every so often throughout the movie that she's still on this plantation. It's not like she just ran away and that's it. No, she's still on this plantation for like a majority of this movie. And I'm sitting there like, so how the fuck did she get... If that is explained in the movie, please tell me. I swear to God, like, I was like sitting there half the time like, is that explained? Ever explained? I'm sure it's in history, but what the hell? Also, Kerry Russell just disappears for majority of this movie. Like, she's forgotten about. McConaughey, she plays McConaughey's wife, who has a kid, who at one point, like, just kind of like when he deserts her and to get away from Confederate soldiers, she packs her things up into a carriage, and that's the last you see of her until like 20 minutes, the last half hour of this movie. She just pops up out of nowhere, like, what the fuck? It was like, oh, she's still in this movie. Okay. Damn, that movie sucked. It was just boring, man. Like, I almost want to say I would almost prefer to watch Independence Day. At least that movie went through pretty quickly. This just felt like it went on for 5 hours. And I want to say this, like, I don't know, I don't think this is like a point where like the screenwriter, the story writer was at fault. I don't know whose fault it was. Like, I'm pretty certain that probably Hollywood, I would venture to guess, hey, if one of the Hartmans wants to comment and find out what, like, and tell me maybe, like, did Hollywood get involved in this and kind of fuck the movie up and make it, like, not that good? If so, I mean, that's kind of one of those things that's out of your hands. I mean, that sucks. I don't know. I really wanted to like this movie. I want to say that right off the bat. I went in with an open mind. I was like, you know what? I don't know how this movie's bad. I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. Like, even with all these bad reviews it's getting, I'm still gonna give it a shot. And like I said, first 20 minutes I was kind of into it. Also, this movie's brutal as hell. God damn, that movie was brutal. Like, the opening scene has like legs blown off, heads, like, people have holes in their heads, giant holes, like, from cannons and shit like that. That was brutal. There's a lot of brutal violence in this movie. I kind of like that, but man, it was a bad movie. A bad night at the movies. Man, it was. That was the 5 hours of my life that's what pretty much how long it took to see both movies that I will never get back. Don't go see either one of those movies, alright? As far as trailers go, I only got one new trailer, and that was Bad Moms. It's a thing from the writer of The Hangover, where a bunch of moms get together and they're sick of being these perfect moms who just are trying to raise their kids, and they decide to go nuts for a night or something like that. Woohoo, yippee! It's got like Mila Kunis, Kristen Bell, I think Katherine Hahn, or who else? Christina Applegate's the perfect mom that's opposing them. Yeah, it looked like it didn't look that very good. Maybe I'll be wrong about that, but we'll see. But as far as trailers go, don't go see either Free State of Jones or Independence Day Resurgence. I'll be back next week with The Purge. I almost said Purge Anarchy. That's the second one. The Purge Election Year, The Legend of the Tarzan, and the BFG. And until then, I'll talk to you guys later.